Hey there folks, Troy from IntoDrums.com here, and today I've got a little bit of a kind of different thing. It's not quite a lesson, it's more of a concept and maybe an idea for you to get motivated to be creative behind the drum kit. Now, one thing that I honestly struggle with quite a lot is soloing. I don't feel comfortable personally just soloing and mucking around behind the kit because, in all honesty, 99% of my job is not soloing. It's making a song feel good and all that. And the problem is I feel like lately especially I've been using that as kind of an excuse. And I don't want to use that excuse anymore. So I've sort of tried to get out of my comfort zone and start being more creative behind the kit. So along the way I've mucked around with doing different stuff like just creating solos on the spot. But hands down, one of the most fun things for me to do is to solo over a loop or a track or something. Just put on some kind of musical idea and solo over it. So you might be wondering what I'm talking about when I'm talking about a loop. Now, all a loop is a chunk of a song or a percussion track or whatever. It's just a chunk of music or sound, and you're going to play that over and over and over, and that's going to create a loop. And a loop is just where it keeps repeating over and over. And then we're going to use that pattern to base our creativity off. Now, you don't have to go out on the internet and buy drum loops and all that kind of stuff. I'm not trying to sell you any drum loops or anything like that either. You can literally do this if you've got any kind of phone, like if you've got an Android device or an iOS device, you can do this quite easily with free apps and paid apps, and I'll talk about those a little bit later. Now, the thing I like about playing with a loop is it gives you some structure, which I feel is really important, because you can sit there and do drum solos all day and that's great, but realistically, to me, I very rarely am in a situation where someone goes, hey, we want you to just do a solo. It doesn't happen to me that often. And again, if I am doing a solo, I'd rather there be some kind of like bass line or something that I have to hit in there, because it feels like it's still connected in some way to that music. Now, another thing it's going to do is going to give you limitations. You're going to have to stay within that kind of framework and see how creative you can be around that framework. Now, when I say limitations, I'm not actually saying you are limited to playing one groove or whatever, but you are trying to make that musical phrase still sound musical. And there's a couple of things I'm going to demonstrate here where I'm going to experiment with the feel and see if I can change the whole feel of that loop just from what I'm playing. And I think you're going to actually be quite surprised at how much of an impact what you're playing has on the groove and the feel of that loop. Okay, so the loop I'm going to be using is the keyboard intro of a tune called I've Come Alive by Chris Buxton and the Deep Flow Frequency, and I was fortunate enough to play on this album, so check it out on Spotify. There'll be a link in the description. Now, what I've done with this loop is I've given myself a framework now to start messing around and seeing what I can come up with and what works, what doesn't work, what kind of feel, and just when I think I've got it down, and yep, then I try and flip it on its head and I try and play a totally different feel and mess around with that. So this is just a 4-bar pattern that's just going to repeat over and over and over. Cool, and that's it. So we're going to use that as our framework for experimenting and seeing what we can come up with. Now, if you are doing this for the first time, be prepared. It's probably not going to sound fantastic, and that's fine. It's all good. You're in a practice room, you're not performing it. I really wouldn't recommend, having never done this before, put it on stage and just go for it. Like, it's probably not going to work out well. But you can experiment in the practice room without any people watching you and without that kind of pressure, and you can see what works and what doesn't and muck around. Now, one other thing I want to just quickly point out is there is no click on this track. So it's not like I'm playing to a click that's playing a track. I'm just playing to the track. And I think that's really important, because when you're playing with other musos, you're not going to, most of the time, you probably won't have a click track there. So you don't want to be dependent on that. You want to be trying to develop your time. And you'll notice sometimes you might land and it's a little bit out and all that, but that's fine. Just adjust and see how much better you can make it the next time. And remember, start nice and easy and build it up. So I'm just going to put it on now, and I'm just going to start mucking around with it, and we'll see what happens. All right, so that was just mucking around. Totally not rehearsed, just made up stuff. Some stuff works, some stuff didn't, which is cool. Now, one other really fun thing I love doing with these kind of loops is messing with the feel. So you could hear I was doing kind of a, I don't know, I guess what you call that, a linear kind of broken hi-hat kind of pattern. I don't know, it was just whatever, just mucking around. But changing the feel to that loop and seeing what can happen is a lot of fun. So let's just mess with that. And I'll just play a few different feels around that loop and we'll see what happens. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, how can I make these loops and is it really hard? Well, if you know how to use a smartphone, probably not really as hard as you think. There's a couple of apps that I do recommend. One is a paid one. It's called AudioScrub Remix, and that's available on iOS for sure. I'm not sure if it's on Android. The thing I love about that app, and I've had it for years, is it allows me to loop sections. It also allows me to change the pitch, change the tempo. It's really handy for learning songs just in general, because you can load any song from your iTunes library or from your files on your device, and you can really deep dive into each of the sections. So say there's a drum cover that I did years ago on my YouTube channel, shameless plug, called Monkey Fingers by Marcel Yamuni. The intro of that is pretty full on, and all I did to learn that was I put it into this AudioScrub, but what it allowed me to do was slow down the section, work out where the accents were. Okay, cool, worked out the accents, worked out where I needed to place those accents around a kit, which ones needed to be doubled, and then learn the part, and then slowly speed it up to tempo, then play it a little bit faster than I needed to, and then bring it back. So I was super comfortable. And that's how I got it down. And I mean, it took something that was super hard in my mind and made it a lot more tangible, because it gave me time to figure out what was happening. Now, the second app I'm going to recommend is by Yamaha, and it's called Rec'n'Share. I know it's on iOS because I use iOS. I'm not sure if it's on Android, but check it out. It's free. And the cool thing is about it, what I've found about it, like full disclosure, I've had it on my phone for a few years, never even bothered to open it. Opened it the other day and was blown away, because one of the features in it is as soon as you load a song from your iTunes library or your files or whatever on your device, it'll analyze and it'll put a click to it. So it's really, really cool for finding tempos of songs, playing to a click with the song. You can raise the volume of the click, take it away, raise the volume of the track or take it away. And it allows you to loop sections as well. And there's a cool little button there, which is -2, which makes it go back, I think, 2 seconds, which is really cool. If you miss something, you just want to hit it. Really cool. Check it out, and it will help you heaps. So all you need to do with these apps is they've both got the loop feature. You just set the start point of the loop and you set the end point of the loop. So that's it from me today. Hope you've enjoyed this lesson. Hope it gives you something to work on and something to muck around with. And it's, like I said, it's something I'm working on now, and I don't think I'll ever be great at it. It's so much fun, so I don't really care. So as always, if you did like this lesson, please hit that thumbs up. And if you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing to the channel for more free drum lessons. Anyway, I'll be back next week with another drum lesson for you. So until then, have a fantastic week. And as always, happy practicing.